Listen with ease. Have you ever sat very silently, not with your attention fixed on anything, not making any effort to concentrate, but with the mind very quiet, really still? Then you hear everything, don't you? You hear the far off noise as well as those that are nearer and those that are very close by. The immediate sounds, which mean really that you are listening to everything. Your mind is not confined to one narrow little channel. If you can listen in this way, listen with ease without strain, you will find an extraordinary change taking place within you. A change that comes without your volition, without your asking, and in that change there is great beauty and depth of insight. Putting aside screens, how do you listen? Do you listen with your projections, through your ambitions, desire, fears, anxieties, through hearing only what you want to hear, only what will be satisfactory, what will gratify, what will give comfort, what will for the moment alleviate your suffering. If you listen through the screen of your desire, then you obviously listen to your own voice. You are listening to your own desire, and is there any other form of listening? Is it not important to find out how to listen, and how to listen not only to what is being said but to everything, to the noise in the streets, to the chatter of birds, to the noise of the tram car, to the restless sea, to the voice of your husband, to your wife, to your friend, to the cry of a baby. Listening has importance only when one is not projecting one's own desire through which one listens. Can one put aside all these screens through which we listen and really listen? January 2. Beyond the noise of words. Listening is an art not easily come by, but in it there is beauty and great understanding. We listen with the various depths of our being, but our listening is always with a perception of or from a particular point of view. We do not listen simply. There is always the intervening screen of our own thoughts, conclusions, and prejudices. To listen, there must be an inward quietness, a freedom from the strain of acquiring a little relaxed attention. This alert yet passive state is able to hear what is beyond the verbal conclusion. Words confuse, they are only the outward means of communication, but to commune beyond the noise of word, there must be in listening an alert passivity. Those who love may listen, but it is extremely rare to find a listener. Most of us are after results, achieving goals. We are forever overcoming and conquering, and so there is no listening. It is only in listening that one hears the song of the words. Listening without thought. I do not know whether you have listened to a bird. To listen to something demands that your mind be quiet. Not a mystical quietness, but just quietness. I am telling you something, and to listen to me, you have to be quiet, not have all kinds of ideas buzzing in your mind. When you look at a flower, you look at it, not naming it, not classifying it, not saying that it belongs to a certain species. When you do these, you cease to look at it. Therefore, I am saying that it is one of the most difficult things to listen. To listen to the communist, to the socialist, to the congressman, to the capitalist, to anybody, to your wife, to your children, to your neighbor, to the bus conductor, to the bird, just to listen. It is only when you listen without the idea, without thought, that you are directly in contact, and being in contact, you will understand whether what he is saying is true or false. You do not have to discuss. Listening brings freedom. When you make an effort to listen, you are listening. Is not that very effort a distraction that prevents listening? Do you make an effort when you listen to something that gives you delight? You are not aware of truth, nor do you see the false as the false, as long as your mind is occupied in any way with effort, with comparison, with justification or condemnation. Listening itself is a complete act. The very act of listening brings its own freedom. But are you really concerned with listening or with altering the turmoil within? If you would listen in the sense of being aware of your conflict and contradiction without forcing them into any particular pattern of thought, perhaps they might altogether cease. You see, we are constantly trying to be this or that, to achieve a particular state, to capture one kind of experience and avoid another. So the mind is everlastingly occupied with something. It is never still to listen to the noise of its struggle and pains. Be simple and don't try to become something or to capture some experience. Listening without effort. You are now listening to me. You are not making an effort to pay attention. You are just listening, and if there is truth in what you hear, you will find a remarkable change taking place in you, a change that is not premeditated or wished for, a transformation, a complete revolution in which the truth alone is master and not the creation of your mind. And if I suggest it, you should listen in that way to everything, not only to what I am saying, but also to what other people are saying, to the bird, to the whistle of a locomotive, to the noise of the bus going by. You will find that the more you listen to everything, the greater is the silence, and that silence is then not broken by noise. It is only when you are resisting something, when you are putting up a barrier between yourself and that to which you do not want to listen. It is only then that there is a struggle. Listening to yourself. Questioner. Why I am while I am hearing listen why I am why while I am here listening to you, I seem to understand, but when I am away from here, I don't understand, even though I try to apply what you have been saying. Krishnamurti. You are listening to yourself and not to the speaker. If you are listening to the speaker, he becomes your leader, your way to understanding, which is a horror, an abomination, because you have then established the hierarchy of authority. So what you are doing here is listening to yourself. You are looking at the picture the speaker is painting, which is your own picture, not speakers. If that much is clear, that you are looking at yourself, then you can say, well, I see myself as I am and I don't want to do anything about it, and that is the end of it. But if you say, I see myself as I am and there must be a change, then you begin to work out of your own understanding, which is entirely different from applying what the speaker is saying. But if, as the speaker is speaking, you are listening to yourself, then out of that listening there is clarity, there is sensitivity. Out of that listening, the mind becomes healthy, strong, neither obey nor resisting. It becomes alive, intense, and it is only such a human being who can create a new generation, a new world. Look with intensity. It seems to me that learning is astonishingly difficult, as is listening also. We never actually listen to anything because our mind is not free. Our ears are stuffed up with those things that we already know. So listening becomes extraordinarily difficult, I think, or rather, it is a fact that if one can listen to something with all of one's being, with vigor, with vitality, then the very act of listening is a liberative factor. But unfortunately, you never do listen, as you have never learned about it. After all, you only learn when you give your whole being to something. When you give your whole being to mathematics, you learn. But when you are in a state of contradiction, when you do not want to learn but are forced to learn, then it becomes merely a process of accumulation. To learn is like reading a novel with innumerable characters. It requires your full attention, not not contradictory attention. If you want to learn about a leaf of the spring or a leaf of the summer, you must really look at it. See the symmetry of it, the texture of it, the quality of the living leaf. There is beauty, there is vigor, there is vitality in a single leaf. So, to learn about the leaf, the flower, the cloud, the sunset, or a human being, you must look with all intensity. To learn, the mind must be quiet. To discover anything new, you must start on your own. You must start on a journey completely denuded, especially of knowledge, because it is very easy through knowledge and beliefs to have experiences, but those experiences are merely the products of self projection and therefore utterly unreal, false. If you are to discover for yourself what is the new, it is no good carrying the burden of the old, especially knowledge. The knowledge of another, however great. You use knowledge as a means of self projection, security, and you want to be quite sure that you have the same experiences as the Buddha or the Christ or X. But a man who is protecting himself constantly through knowledge is obviously not a truth seeker. For the discovery of truth, there is no path. When you have to find something new, when you are experimenting with anything, your mind has to be very quiet, has it not? If your mind is crowded, filled with facts, knowledge, they they acts they act as an impediment to the new. The difficulty for the most of us is the mind has become so important, so predominantly significant, that it interferes constantly with anything that may be new, with anything that may exist simultaneously with the known. Thus, knowledge and learning are impediments for those who would seek, for those who try to understand that which is timeless. Learning is not experience. The word learning has great significance. There are two kinds of learning. For most of us, learning means the accumulation of knowledge, of experience, of technology, of a skill, of a language. There is also psychological learning. Learning through experience, either the immediate experience of life, which have a certain residue of tradition of the race of society. There are these two kind of learning: how to meet life, psychological and physiological, outward skill and inward skill. There is really no line of demarcation between the two. They overlap. We are not considering for the moment the skill that we learn through practice, the technology knowledge that we acquire through study. What we are concerned about is the psychological learning that we have acquired through the centuries, or inherited, or as tradition, as knowledge, as experience. This we call learning, but I question whether it is learning at all. I am not talking about learning a skill, a language, a technique, but I am asking whether the mind ever learns psychologically. It has learned, and with what it has learned, it meets the challenge of life. It is always translating life or the new challenge according to what it has learned. That is what we are doing. Is that learning? Doesn't learnings imply something new, something that I don't know and I am learning? If I am merely adding to what I already know, it is no longer learning. January 10. When is learning possible? To inquire and to learn is the function of the mind. By learning, I do not mean the mere cultivation of memory or the accumulation of knowledge, but the capacity to think clearly and sanely without illusion, to start from facts and not from beliefs and ideals. There is no learning if thought originates from conclusions. Merely to acquire information or knowledge is not to learn. Learning implies the love of understanding and the love of doing a thing for itself. Learning is possible only when there is no uh, coercion of anything, and coercion takes many forms. Does it not? There is coercion through influence, through attachment or threat, through persuasive encouragement or subtle forms of reward. Most people think that learning is encouraged through comparison, whereas the contrary is the fact. Comparison brings about frustration and merely encourages envy, which is called competition. Like other forms of persuasion, comparison prevents learning and breeds fear. Learning is never accumulation. Learning is never accumulative. Learning is one thing and acquire knowledge is another. Learning is a continuous process, not a process of addition, not a process which you gather and then from their act. Most of us gather knowledge as memory, as idea, store it up as experience, and from their act. That is, we act from knowledge, technological knowledge, knowledge as experience, knowledge as tradition, knowledge that one has derived through one's particular idiosyncratic tendencies. With that background, with that accumulation as knowledge, as experience, as tradition, we act. In that process, there is no learning. Learning is never accumulative, it is a constant movement. I do not know if you have ever gone into this question at all. What is learning and what is the acquisition of knowledge? Learning is never accumulative. You cannot store up learning and then from that storehouse act. We learn as you are going along. Therefore, there is never a moment of retrogression or deterioration or decline. January 12. Learning has no past. So we will continue it in the next video. Learning has no past.